Good morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. We're going into a 3-day Shabbat holiday of Shavuot. And Shavuot, of course, this year commemorates the 3,334th anniversary of the giving of the Torah. And the question is, if we already received the Torah for 3,333 years prior to this year, what's the point of re-receiving the Torah for the 3,334th time? And the answer perhaps is this. Someone shared with me an interesting YouTube video. You can look it up yourself. There's two words in this YouTube video. One is green needle, and the other word in the video is brainstorm. And based on which word you're reading, that's the word you hear when the sound is made. And I don't know how it works, but there's something about the brain that if you're reading the word green needle, you hear green needle. If you're reading the word brainstorm, you hear the word brainstorm. And I tried it multiple times and it really works. And it made me realize something. The Torah is the same Torah that was given at Mount Sinai 3,334 years ago. But based on what we are experiencing in our lives, based on what we are thinking about, reading about, understanding, our circumstances, that's what we see and hear in the Torah. Meaning to say the Torah does not change, it's the same Torah. But we, human beings, are always changing. The world is changing around us. And we can read the same passage that we read last year or the year before, but hear something new and experience something new and feel something new when we read the same Torah. And that's why on Saturday night I invite you to come to shul for the Shavuot meal and for the late night learning, because every year we are evolving and changing as human beings, and therefore we will hear and experience something new in the Torah. And that's also true at different stages of life. We could learn the same passage with our children. Our children could hear one message and we could hear another message. And on the second day of Shavuot, we read the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is a very powerful story about kindness. A woman who followed her mother-in-law Naomi and said, wherever you go, I will go. Your people are my people, became a Jew. And then she marries Boaz, who's very kind to her because he heard about her reputation and what she did for her mother-in-law. And Boaz marries her and they have a child, and she becomes the progenitor, the grandmother of King David and ultimately of Mashiach. And our rabbis say, why did she merit that? And what's the power of the story of Ruth? And the power of the story is that here was a woman, a widower, a convert to Judaism, an immigrant, a poverty-stricken woman. But yet she was uplifted and married to Boaz and became the mother of royalty, teaching us that we as a society must show kindness to the weakest, to the most marginalized, to the most underprivileged members of our society, and realize that life is changing and everyone's life circumstances is changing, and therefore chesed, kindness, means to know what each person needs and to be there for each person in their own way. And that is the message of Shavuot. The message of Shavuot is that times change, circumstances in life change, and we have to know how to interpret and to read the messages of the Torah and find its relevance and application and care for the needs of each person, understanding that everyone is unique in their own life and their own circumstances. And that is the purpose of Torah, to bring goodness, kindness, and peace to the world. I tell a story about a little girl that walked into a jewelry store in Jerusalem. She looked through the counters and she saw this beautiful gold bracelet, and she asked the owner how much that bracelet is. The man looked at the girl, she was 7 years old. He said, well, how much money do you have? And she took out a bag of change and poured it on the counter. He counted the change, it was just some shekels, not worth more than $5. And the man said, why do you want this bracelet? He said, well, my mother died a few years ago and my older sister takes such good care of me. I want to buy her a birthday present. And the man said, you know, that you have exactly the right amount of money of what this bracelet costs. And he wraps up the bracelet and sends it home with the girl. The next day, the big sister comes in and says, I'm so sorry that my sister came in and took this bracelet. I'm sure she couldn't afford it. I don't know how she got it, but here, I want to return it. And the shopkeeper said, no, it's yours. Your sister bought it and paid for it. And the older sister said, how could She had paid for it. She can't afford this very expensive bracelet. And the jewelry shop owner said, your sister paid for it with a full heart of love. When we come to the holiday of Shavuot, let us come with a full heart of love. Like the story of Ruth, who had full love, a heart full of love for Hashem, for the Torah, and for her mother-in-law. Let us learn the lessons of the Torah, especially in our day and age, and find its direction to guide us through perilous times, very challenging times, but to remember the eternal voice of God who speaks to every one of us in every day and every generation. I look forward to seeing you on Shabbat and Chag Shavuot Sameach. Let us re-embrace the Torah this year with new zeal, vigor, joy, and love. Shabbat Shalom.